tänker här, ska jag förstå det.
Det är bra.
So we will give a talk about motivating the young generation to learn more about geospatial standards. So now we are going a bit up in age, looking into university students. So my name is Lars Harrie and I work at Lund University.
My name is Gabriel Hirsch. I work at a Swedish consultants company called Sweco.
Yes, and we will start to talk about geospatial standards role in the Swedish GIS-book, and then a bit in university courses. And finally, Gabriel will talk more about the working life. So, in Sweden, there are around 2,000 university students that take basic courses in GIS each year, and around half of them buy the Swedish GIS-book, or at least they should buy it. And this book has been, the first edition was actually in 1999, so it has a long history, and now next year we will give out the 8th edition. So in this book there is one chapter about infrastructure in geospatial data, and in that is a section about standards. So there the students learn about the basics of standards, of course, and which organization, including, of course, ISO that lies behind, and why are we developing standards, and also a bit about geospatial standards in relation to other standards. But this is not the only chapter that includes standards. This book has around 10 chapters, and half of them has some connection to standards. For example, the chapter about geology includes, of course, geodetic reference systems, the EPSG codings, and so on. And when the chapter about the storage of geospatial data, it includes the OGC simple feature model, including the SQL access to this type of data. And the WebGIS chapter includes, of course, the OGC map services, VMS, VFS, and so on, and a bit about the new generation of standards. And we have one chapter about quality issues, and there is a lot of ISO standards about that, the metadata, the quality themes, and so on, that are described. So, if you are a student now going to Lund University, and you are going to the surveying program, and you will specialize in GIS, what type of information do you actually learn about geospatial standards? Well, during the first 3 years, which is compulsory for all students in surveying, there you learn about more or less the thing that I told you. You have this Swedish GIS-book, and you learn about these basic things. But you don't do much practical work, really, about the standards. So the last 2 years, you could specialize in GIS, and if you do that, you have one course that deals with geology and a lot of other subjects. Among others, you learn about city models, where like city GML standard is described and so on. And we also have a course in GIS algorithms, going through the more theoretical part of GIS, where we describe topological relationships, including the D9IM model from ISO. And in the WebGIS course, of course, the standardized web service is a key here. But here they don't only learn about them, they actually do much practical work in implementing this type of standards. And the same goes for geographical databases. They have seen the simple feature access of SQL, and now they do a lot of own implementations and do this in practice. So this is roughly the current situation. What we will do more in the future, of course, we will go through the new generation of web services that is coming up. And we are also interested in teaching more about knowledge graphs, and especially about Geospark. Interesting. So what has we learned from a teaching perspective? Well, one is that we have try to have specific courses about standards and SDI and so on. That hasn't been working very well. It has been very hard to motivate the students to go to these courses and also to these specific lectures. So what we have tried to do now is going more to learn about standards as part of other things. I mean, when we are talking about web services in general, then we go through the standards. I think that has at least worked for us in a better way. Yes.
Thank you, Lars. And to connect the university to real life, or sorry about saying that, but what we do in the private sector, we interact with the students in different ways. And I will give you 3 short examples of how we try to put geodata standards in the context of working life. I'll give 1 example about something we called a click-along with students. I will talk briefly about hackathons, but we have seen a huge success with using geodata standards within. And the third and last topic is more about the approach that we have in working life and how the geodata standards or standards in general applies to this. But first, some short things about a click-along. And this is actually used for us as a way to attract students so we can employ them. And then we can use standards as part of that branding of our working place. So a click-along is actually, think as it as a sing-along, but you click instead of sing. Of course you can sing as well. But it's an introduction to a real-life problem that a GIS professional could face when you are working, but we put this in a fun context. So everything is conducted online, so the students tune in with their own computers, and we're using Microsoft Teams or Zoom or which platform that are up for grab. All attendees use the same data, and we preferably use data in a standardized format, like the OGC format that Lars just told you about. We explained that the standard and the standardized format is like a foundation for us speaking the same language, both the students and us from the consultant company. And then the leaders walk through the exercise and the students click along. And by this means that they learn what we actually do in real life, and we can introduce the way of working in a fun context. The second example is a hackathon. We use this with students from the university together with recent graduates or even highly professional people who have very much experience. We do this internally at our company or externally together with private or public organizations to evaluate and innovate around a real world problem. We try to avoid the interoperability obstacles, and to do that we need some sort of standardized format, which means that we often land on the base of IFC or CTGML or the data that Lantmäteriet, National Mapping Authority, has actually tried to provide us all from, like master plans from the municipalities. And if we avoid the interoperability obstacles, we can focus on the real solutions of innovations of things, what this standardized formats can give us as an innovation. We often do this like in the boundary between the GIS and the BIM world, which we have a lot of different tasks to solve. The third thing I would like to address is actually something that ISO has been working with for a long time. We call it some sort of approach to work in life at our company. This is not everything we do, but before the 1950s, when cargo was handling for shipping by boat, it was a complete mess. All boats looked different, and the cargo was just shipped as is, which means that the cargo on the ship and on the dock site, it was pretty disastrous and hard to evaluate how things could go, what things that could go wrong. And then ISO, I guess, in the 1950s established containers, a standardized way to ship by boat. And now all parties could actually calculate on all different parts of the shipping process, because they can think and they can predict how much a container actually could carry on a certain boat. And this is actually something that can also be applied in working life. If we see the standardization of containers as the same thing as we do in the geodata standardization business, is that we all need to speak the same language. And we try to introduce that to newly employees at us, that standards, of course, they could be hard to grasp, could be very theoretical, but it's a framework that gives everybody a common language to talk. And it doesn't matter if you're a private company or a public or an organization or a municipality or a government, we speak the same language. And then we can focus on the fun things, what we think is fun, effective working methods, doing things more efficiently, automation of manual work, and not least utilizing AI, which we really need standards to do. So that's about it. So thank you for us. Any questions?
Thank you very much indeed. I like the partnership thing. So when you take the learning of the standard and then you put the more practical side into it from business, I think that's a good model going forward. Does anybody have any questions at all? Chris?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to introduce the other side of standards development on the business political side. During this week, we'll probably have around about 30 countries participating physically or virtually. They are representing the geospatial community, but also their countries. As the geospatial information is becoming knowledge worldwide, the impact on geopolitical side of this topic and data information is going to be significant. I was just wondering if the university is thinking beyond that technical side as how does the policies of each country starts to influence the development of geospatial, but also the interoperability in AI, BIM, and all that sort of other terminologies that's coming forth. Thank you. I know it's very complex, that question.
Complex question. We have, the thing that I described was mainly from a standard perspective. Of course, we have others, more applied perspectives of GIS, where we talk about the implications of it. Perhaps we are not always good at telling the students that these are based on standards, but at least they could see that the geospatial things are important from a global perspective. About the influence of AI, that's a tricky. We have recently launched a course we are talking about Lund, about geospatial AI, where they learn about techniques and so on. Including, well, we also have teachers talking about transparency issues and so on concerning AI, more coming from a social science perspective. So at least we try. But it's an evolving field, which is not that easy to grasp. Not for us and not for the students.
Any other questions at all? Right, online? Can we have your question online, please?
Yes, I was interested in knowing the name of the book, please. And if there is an English version available?
That is something we currently are discussing with the publisher. So I'm happy if you will buy it. So then I could say that to the publisher. So yeah.
Any other questions at all? No? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.